you're in the middle of a sentence and you lose it. Not the word exactly, just the thread. The thought was there a second ago and now it's gone, dissolved before you could finish it. You reread the same paragraph 3 times and absorbed nothing. Someone asks you a simple question and there's a delay, a half-second lag where you know the answer exists somewhere, but it takes longer than it should to arrive. You forget why you walked into the room. You open a tab and immediately forget what you opened it for. You spend an entire afternoon doing things, and at the end of it, you feel like your head is full of static, thick and slow, like thinking through something dense that shouldn't be dense at all. And the part that makes this particularly unsettling is that nothing is technically wrong. You're not sick, you got some sleep, you're not in a crisis. But your mind feels like a screen that won't fully load, always just slightly behind, slightly blurred, never quite sharp. And this isn't a bad day. This is most days. This has become normal in a way that's hard to remember not being. Most people explain this away as stress, or aging, or not sleeping enough, and move on. But the frequency with which people describe this experience, across different ages, different jobs, different lifestyles, suggests something more systematic is happening. Brain fog isn't a quirk or a minor inconvenience. It's a signal, and what it's signaling, in most cases, isn't a medical condition or a character flaw. It's a set of conditions that the modern way of living has quietly created inside your nervous system. Conditions that directly impair the clarity, speed, and depth of your thinking without you ever choosing them. To understand what's actually happening, it helps to think about what your brain needs in order to function clearly. Not what it needs to survive. It can survive under almost any conditions, but what it needs to actually think well, to hold a thought long enough to complete it, to retrieve information cleanly, to make connections, to reason, to feel present inside a conversation. These functions aren't passive. They require energy, they require a reasonably stable internal environment, and they require something that modern life almost systematically prevents: adequate cognitive recovery. Here's where things get strange. Your brain is not a machine that processes information continuously without cost. Every decision you make, every piece of information you take in, every emotional experience you navigate, every context switch you execute, draws on a finite pool of cognitive resources. These resources replenish during rest, particularly during sleep, but also during periods of genuine low stimulation during the day. The problem is that the modern environment never stops generating input. From the moment most people wake up to the moment they fall asleep, the brain is receiving, processing, reacting, deciding, and managing. There are no natural gaps. There is no idle time. The pool is being drawn down continuously, and the replenishment windows are shrinking while being filled with more input. The foggy feel isn't mysterious. It's depletion. It's what happens when a cognitive system that was designed to operate in a world with natural pauses, natural quiet, natural variation between high demand and low demand periods, is instead running at near constant high demand with inadequate recovery. The clarity you're missing isn't gone. It's unavailable because the conditions required to access it aren't being met often enough or long enough. And this is why that matters so much. The depletion is invisible until it becomes significant. You don't feel yourself getting cognitively depleted the way you feel physically tired. Physical tiredness is obvious. It has a clear sensation. It's hard to ignore. Cognitive depletion is subtler. It shows up as slowness, as the slight effort required to think clearly, as a sense that your mind is working harder than the task should require. It shows up as irritability, because the emotional regulation system draws on the same resources as everything else. It shows up as that particular kind of exhaustion where you're too tired to do anything useful, but also too wired to genuinely rest. That combination, tired but unable to rest, is almost diagnostic of a nervous system that has been overstimulated for too long without adequate recovery. What most people miss is the role that information volume plays in this. It's not just that you're busy. It's that you're consuming an unprecedented quantity of information every single day, most of it fragmented, most of it emotionally charged to some degree, most of it requiring some form of mental processing, even when you're doing it passively. Scrolling through a feed looks like doing nothing, but your brain is evaluating, reacting, categorizing, and responding to dozens of images, opinions, events, and emotional cues per minute. It's not passive. It's just low visibility processing, and it accumulates. By the time you try to do something that requires genuine cognitive depth, a significant portion of your daily capacity has already been spent on things you don't even remember seeing. There's a layer underneath this that connects directly to sleep, but not in the way most people think about it. The conversation about sleep usually focuses on duration. Are you getting enough hours? And hours matter. But the quality dimension of sleep is less discussed, and arguably more important for cognitive clarity specifically. During deep sleep, the brain runs a kind of maintenance cycle. It consolidates memories, it clears metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. It processes emotional residue from the day, and it restores the resources needed for clear thinking. When this cycle is interrupted, or when sleep is chronically shallow, even if technically long enough, the maintenance doesn't complete. The clearing doesn't happen. You wake up with a brain that is rested in the loose sense, but not restored in the deep sense, and the fog persists. What interrupts sleep quality, beyond the obvious, is the evening input pattern. The hour or two before sleep is when the nervous system is supposed to be transitioning from activation to rest. But for most people, that window is filled with the most stimulating content available: screens, social media, news, videos, arguments and comment sections, emotionally activating content of all kinds. The nervous system can't complete its transition. It arrives at sleep already at a level of activation that makes depth harder to reach. And the result is sleep that happens but doesn't fully restore. Repeated night after night, creating a slowly worsening baseline of cognitive fog that feels like just the way things are. This explains why so many people report that the fog feels constant, not tied to any particular bad night or stressful week, just always there. Because it is always there. It's a chronic condition created by a chronic pattern. Not a single cause, but an accumulated set of conditions that have been quietly building for months or years. And because it built gradually, there was no single moment where you could point and say, there, that's when it started. It just became the new normal. And the new normal started to feel like you. But it isn't you. This is important to hold on to. The fog isn't your cognitive baseline. It isn't who you are mentally. It's what your current conditions are producing. And conditions can change. The direction of change is not complicated, but it does require honesty about what the actual inputs are. The first and most significant input is the stimulation pattern across the day, specifically, the absence of genuine rest periods. Not sleep, not leisure exactly, but true cognitive downtime during waking hours. Moments where the brain isn't receiving, processing, or producing anything. Moments where you're sitting somewhere without a screen, walking without audio in your ears, eating without watching something. These moments feel unproductive and slightly uncomfortable, especially if you're accustomed to filling every gap. But they are the windows in which your cognitive system does its midday maintenance. They're not wasted time. They're the conditions under which clarity becomes accessible again. The second input is the transition between high-demand activity and rest. Both the small transitions across the day and the larger one before sleep. A nervous system that's asked to go directly from high stimulation to rest doesn't do it well. It needs a gradient. Practically, this means building a buffer, a period of reduced input between whatever is most demanding in your day and whatever is supposed to follow. Before sleep, this means reducing screen time and emotional stimulation in the final hour or 90 minutes. Not perfectly, not religiously, but as a consistent enough pattern that the nervous system begins to associate that window with the beginning of its downshift. There's also the question of decision load. One of the quietest contributors to cognitive fog is the sheer number of small decisions modern life requires. What to eat, what to watch, what to respond to, what to buy, which option to choose, which message to answer first. Every decision, however small, draws on the same finite pool. People who report greater cognitive clarity tend to have, almost universally, simplified significant portions of their daily decision landscape. Not because they're minimalists or because simplicity is virtuous, but because fewer decisions means more cognitive capacity available for things that actually require it. Reducing variety in areas that don't matter to you, automating choices that don't need to be made freshly each time, removing options in contexts where having options costs more than it gains. These are not sacrifices, they're investments in the mental space that clarity requires. There's a deeper truth underneath all of this, and it's about the relationship between your mind and the environment you've built around it. The fog most people experience isn't a malfunction. It's a reasonable response to unreasonable conditions. Your brain is doing exactly what a brain does when it's overloaded, under-recovered, and constantly stimulated. It reduces output to protect itself. The slowness, the blurring, the forgetting, the static are not failures, they're signals. They are the system saying, this is too much, and I don't have enough space to process it cleanly. Listening to those signals, not with alarm, but with genuine curiosity, is different from trying to push through them. Pushing through fog with more effort is like pressing harder on an accelerator when the car is running out of fuel. The response to fog isn't more effort, it's more recovery, it's less input. It's creating, consistently and intentionally, the conditions under which your mind can actually clear. Not a dramatic overhaul, not a perfect routine. Just a gradual, honest reduction in the things that deplete you, and a gradual, honest increase in the things that restore you. The clarity you're looking for hasn't disappeared. It's waiting for conditions you haven't quite built yet, and now you know what those conditions are. If this felt familiar, comment brain fog. It helps me know this is something more people are silently dealing with.